What would you do if your own son told you to leave the house you bought with your life savings? I didn't cry, I did something that left everyone in shock. When they came home, they found a surprise that turned their world upside down. You know what happened? Stay with me, because the twist is something you'll never see coming. You know? I always thought the worst thing about getting older would be the wrinkles. I mean, who hasn't stood in front of the bathroom mirror, tugging at their cheeks and wondering if a little tape behind the ears would do the trick? But let me tell you, crow's feet and laugh lines are nothing compared to the cold shoulder you can get from your own family. I never expected that the real chill would come from inside my own home, the one I bought. Mind you, with my own two hands and a mountain of paperwork. I always thought that house would be my safe haven, my little slice of peace after years of working, raising kids, and making sure everyone else was happy. Turns out, sometimes the people you love most can make you feel like a stranger in your own living room. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I just finished folding a mountain of laundry that, let's be honest, wasn't even mine. My son's. Socks, his wife's yoga pants, towels that seemed to multiply like rabbits. There was a laundry Olympics. I'd have a gold medal by now. I was humming to myself, thinking about what to make for dinner, when I heard the front door open. In walked my son, my baby, Matthew. The one I used to rock to sleep when he had nightmares, and his wife, Brooke, who always had that look on her face like she'd just smelled something funny. They stood there in the hallway whispering to each other, and I could feel the temperature in the room drop a few degrees. You know that feeling, right? When you just know something's coming and it's not going to be good. "Mom, can we talk?" Matthew said, his voice a little too formal, like he was about to fire someone at work. I put down the laundry basket and tried to smile, even though my heart was already doing somersaults. "Of course, honey. What's up?" I asked, hoping maybe they just wanted to tell me they were finally going to clean out the garage, or I don't know, thank me for all the free babysitting and home-cooked meals. Wishful thinking, I know. He cleared his throat, glanced at Brooke, and then looked back at me. "Mom, we think it's time you found your own place. We're tired of seeing you around." Just like that. No sugarcoating, no gentle lead-in. It was like being hit with a bucket of ice water. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what I just heard. Was I being fired from my own home? The home I bought, paid for, and kept running all these years? I wanted to laugh, but the only thing that came out was a little gasp. Brooke, never one to miss a chance to twist the knife, chimed in. "It's just, we need our space. We're newlyweds, and it's hard to feel like this is our home with you always here." I looked at her, this woman who'd moved in with nothing but a suitcase and a collection of essential oils, and wondered if she'd ever once thought about how I felt. I'd given up my master bedroom so they could have more space, cooked meals every night, and even unclogged the toilet after her famous chilly night. Don't ask. Let's just say some things can't be unseen. But instead of crying, I just smiled. 'Cause if there's one thing I've learned in all my years, it's that a woman's greatest power is knowing when to keep quiet and when to act. I could feel the tears stinging behind my eyes, but I refused to let them see me break. Not after everything I'd done for them. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and nodded. "I see," I said, my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. "Well, thank you for being honest." Inside, I was a mess. My mind was racing. Where would I go? What would I do? Was I really such a burden that my own son wanted me gone? But I refused to let them see any of that. I'd spent too many years putting everyone else first, and if this was how they wanted to repay me, then fine. I'd show them just how strong I could be. After they left the room, probably to celebrate their newfound freedom, I sat down at the kitchen table and let myself feel the hurt for a moment. It's funny, isn't it? You spend your whole life building a home, creating a family, and in the end, you can still end up feeling like an outsider. But as I sat there staring at the chipped mug in my hands, I realized something important. I didn't have to stay where I wasn't wanted. I didn't have to beg for scraps of kindness or tiptoe around my own house. I was still the woman who'd built a life from scratch, who'd survived heartbreak and loss and come out stronger every time. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry and I wasn't going to beg. I was going to take back control of my life one step at a time. Maybe it was time for a new adventure, a fresh start somewhere I could finally put myself first. And as I stood up, wiped my hands on my apron, and started making a list of things to pack, I couldn't help but smile. Because sometimes the best revenge is living well and showing the world and your ungrateful family that you're nobody's burden, and that my friends was the moment the chill in the air turned into a fire in my belly. So what did I do? Did I beg? Did I plead? Not a chance. I picked up the phone and called my old friend Joyce Sanders. Now, Joyce and I go way back to the days of big hair, disco balls, and sneaking out to see Elvis impersonators. She's the kind of woman who can sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. And she's got a soft spot for a good revenge story. Joyce, I said, how fast can you sell a house? There was a pause, and then that familiar cackle. Carol, I can sell it before you finish packing your bags. What's going on? I gave her the short version on grateful kids, a daughter-in-law with the warmth of a snowman, and a mother who was done being treated like yesterday's leftovers. Joyce didn't waste a second. She was at my door the next morning, armed with a stack of paperwork, a camera, and a box of donuts. We're going to make this place shine, she said, already rearranging the throw pillows and fluffing the curtains. We laughed as we worked, swapping stories about our kids and the ridiculous things they'd done. Did you know Joyce's son once tried to microwave a turkey? The fire department still talks about it. It felt good to laugh, to remember that I wasn't alone, and that sometimes the best way to heal a broken heart is with a little bit of mischief. Turns out, selling a house is a lot easier when you're motivated down when you throw in a free set of matching towels. Hey, I'm not above a little bribery. Those towels had never even been used, and if it sweetened the deal, why not? Joyce worked her magic, and within days, we had an offer. It's a nice young couple, newly married, looking for a fresh start. Liked them immediately. They reminded me of myself and my late husband, back when we thought the world was ours for the taking. I signed the papers with a sense of relief. Like I was finally closing a chapter that had dragged on too long. While Matthew and Brooke were at work, I packed my things. It's funny how much you accumulate over the years-old letters, chipped, mugs, a drawer full of takeout menus from restaurants that don't even exist anymore. I took what mattered, left what didn't, and made sure to leave the house spotless. I even baked a batch of cookies for the new owners, because that's just the kind of person I am. Before I left, I sat at the kitchen table one last time, pen in hand, and wrote a little note. Hope you find what you're looking for. Love, Mom. I placed it right where I knew they'd see it, next to the empty fruit bowl that had once overflowed with apples and oranges and, occasionally, the odd sock. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a strange mix of sadness and excitement. Oh, sadness for what I was leaving behind, but excitement for what lay ahead. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I knew one thing for certain. I was done being anyone's doormat. I was ready to start living for myself, to find joy in the little things again, and maybe even rediscover the woman I'd been before life got so complicated, Dal. Let me ask you, have you ever wanted to be a fly on the wall when someone gets exactly what they deserve? Because what happened next? Well, let's just say I wish I'd had popcorn. I could just picture Matthew and Brooke coming home, arms full of groceries, expecting to find dinner on the stove and laundry folded on the couch. Instead, they'd find an empty house, a sold sign on the lawn, and a note from the mother they'd taken for granted. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. But here's the thing. Sometimes the quiet before the storm is the sweetest part. It's the moment when you realize you're stronger than you thought, braver than you believed, and ready for whatever comes next. I spent that night at Joyce's place, sipping tea and watching old movies, feeling lighter than I had in years. We toasted 2 new beginnings, 2 second chances, and to the power of a woman who knows her worth. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're not appreciated, remember this. You don't have to stay. You don't have to beg. Can pick up the phone, call a friend, and start a new chapter. Who knows? You might just find that the best is yet to come. It's a Thursday evening, the kind where the sun is just starting to dip behind the trees, painting the sky with those soft pinks and oranges that always make you feel a little nostalgic. Matthew and Brooke, arms full of groceries probably. The same old frozen pizzas and organic kale she insists on buying but never eats, pull into the driveway. I can just imagine them chatting about their day. Maybe even complaining about the traffic or the neighbor's dog that barks at everything. That moves. They're probably already thinking about what they're going to order me to do next. Mom, can you put these away? Mom, did you remember to iron my shirt? Mom, what's for dinner? You know, the usual chorus. But this time, as they walk up the path, something is different. There's a big, bold sold sign staked right in the front yard, practically glowing in the evening light. Now, I wish I could have seen their faces in that exact moment. I really do. I heard about it later from Mrs. Whitman across the street, who never misses a thing and has binoculars that could spot a fly on the moon. She said Brooke's face turned the color of her chili bright red and steaming, like she was about to blow her top. Matthew, he just stood there, mouth open, bags of groceries dangling from his hands, looking like he'd seen a ghost. Or maybe just the consequences of his own actions, which, let's be honest, is even scarier. They tried the door, of course, jiggled the handle, fumbled with their keys, probably thinking it was some kind of mistake. But no key, no entry, no more. Mom to pick up after them. The locks had been changed, the house was empty, and all that was left was the echo of their own voices bouncing off the walls. I can just picture them standing there, groceries getting heavier by the second, trying to process what had happened. Maybe they thought it was a prank. Maybe they thought I'd be hiding behind the curtains, ready to jump out and say, "Gotcha." But no, this was real. This was the moment they realized that the woman they'd taken for granted had finally had enough. I heard that Brooke started ranting right there on the porch, waving her arms and stomping her feet like a toddler denied a cookie. She was furious, demanding to know how this could happen, how I could just sell the house out from under them. Matthew, bless his heart, just kept staring at the sold sign, as if he could will it to disappear. Mrs. Whitman said she almost felt sorry for them almost. But then she remembered all the times they'd ignored her when she waved from her garden. And she decided they had it coming. Meanwhile, where was I? Oh, I was already settled in at Joyce's place, curled up on her couch with a hot cup of tea and a plate of her famous lemon bars. We were watching reruns of Golden Girls, laughing so hard we nearly spilled our tea. It felt good, no, it felt amazing to finally put myself first, to let go of all the resentment and frustration that had been building up for years. Joyce kept nudging me, saying, "See, I told you this would feel good." And she was right. For the first time in a long time, I felt light-free and just a little bit wicked. I'll admit there was a tiny part of me that wondered if I'd gone too far. Was it too harsh? Should I have given them more warning? But then I remembered all the times I'd been overlooked, all the times my kindness had been mistaken for weakness. I remembered the look on Matthew's face when he told me I was a burden, the way Brooke rolled her eyes when I tried to help. No, I decided this was exactly what needed to happen. Sometimes people need a little shock to wake them up, to realize what they've lost. Joyce and I toasted 2 new beginnings, to standing up for ourselves, and to the sweet, sweet taste of freedom. We talked about all the things I could do, now travel, join a book club, maybe even take up painting again. The possibilities felt endless, and for the first time in years, I was excited about the future. I didn't know exactly where I'd end up, but I knew one thing for sure. I was done living for other people. It was time to start living for me. Back at the house, Matthew and Brooke eventually had to accept reality. They called, of course, several times. In fact, I let it go to voicemail. I figured they needed some time to sit with their choices, to really feel the weight of what they'd done. Maybe it would teach them a little gratitude, a little humility, or maybe not. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. That night, as I drifted off to sleep in Joyce's guest room, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. No more tiptoeing around, no more biting my tongue, no more feeling like a guest in my own home. I was free. And as I closed my eyes, I couldn't help but smile, knowing that sometimes the best way to teach someone a lesson is to let them face the consequences of their own actions, no matter how brutal the shock may be. You know, sometimes life gives you lemons. And sometimes, if you're bold enough to take a leap, it hands you the whole lemonade stand complete with a gingham tablecloth and a jar for tips. That's exactly how I felt in the weeks after I left my old house behind. At first, I'll admit, there were moments when I wondered if I'd made a huge mistake. I'd wake up in Joyce's guest room, sunlight streaming through the curtains. And for a split second, I'd forget where I was. But then I'd remember I was free. Free from the constant demands, the unspoken expectations, and the feeling of being invisible in my own home. It was a little scary, sure, but it was also exhilarating, like standing at the edge of a diving board. Heart-pounding, knowing you're about to make a splash. With Joyce's help and her endless supply of coffee and encouragement, I started looking for a place of my own. I wanted something small, cozy, and most importantly, no more tiptoeing around someone else's schedule, no more folding laundry that wasn't mine, and no more chili-induced plumbing emergencies. I found a sweet little apartment, not too far from the park, with a sunny kitchen and just enough space for my favorite armchair and a few houseplants. The first night I slept there, I made myself a cup of tea, curled up with a good book, and listened to the quiet. Not the heavy, awkward silence of my old house, but the peaceful kind that comes when you know you're exactly where you're supposed to be. It didn't take long for me to start building a new routine. I'd take morning walks in the park, waving at the other early risers and stopping to chat with the dog walkers. I joined a book club at the local library. Turns out, I'm not the only one with a "my kids kicked me out" story. Who knew? Evelyn, one of the ladies, told me her daughter once changed the locks while she was at the hair salon. We'd sit in a circle, sipping coffee and swapping tales of family drama, laughing until our sides hurt. There's something comforting about knowing you're not alone, that other women have walked the same rocky path and come out the other side stronger, wiser, and with a few good stories to tell. I even started trying new things I'd always wanted to do, but never had the time or energy for. I took a painting class. My sunflowers looked more like dandelions. But who's judging? Learned how to make sourdough bread. My first loaf could have doubled as a doorstop. And signed up for a yoga class. Let's just say I'm still working on touching my toes. Every day felt like a little adventure, a chance to rediscover the parts of myself I'd put on the back burner for so long. And my son, well, let's just say Matthew calls a lot more now. It's funny how that works, isn't it? At first, the calls were awkward, stilted conversations about the weather, or questions about where I'd put the spare set of keys. But over time, something shifted. Maybe it was the shock of losing the house, or maybe he just needed a little distance to appreciate what he'd had. Either way, he started calling just to check in, to ask how I was doing, to share a funny story from work. Sometimes, Brooke would even get on the line, her voice a little softer, a little less sharp than before. I never rubbed it in, never said, "I told you so." I just listened, offered advice when asked, and let them figure things out on their own. After all, sometimes the best lessons are the ones we learn the hard way. Looking back, I realized that leaving wasn't just about escaping a bad situation. It was about choosing myself for the first time in a long time. It was about remembering that I'm more than just a mother, a cook, a housekeeper, or a convenient babysitter. I'm a woman with dreams, with stories, with a life that's still unfolding. And let me tell you, the sweet taste of freedom is even better than I imagined. It's the taste of hot coffee on a quiet morning, of laughter shared with new friends, of a good book and a cozy blanket on a rainy afternoon. It's the taste of possibility, of hope, of a future that's entirely my own. So let me ask you, have you ever felt like a burden in your own home? Have you ever wondered what would happen if you finally put yourself first? What would you do if you were in my shoes? I'd love to hear your stories, your triumphs, your moments of bravery. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's remind each other that we're not alone, that it's never too late to start over, and that sometimes the best chapters of our lives are the ones we write for ourselves. And if you enjoyed this little tale of payback and freedom, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Trust me, I've got plenty more stories where this one came from, stories about love, loss, laughter, and the wild, wonderful ride that is life after 50. After all, life's too short not to laugh even when the joke's on someone else. So stick around, pour yourself a cup of tea, and let's keep sharing, growing, and celebrating the sweet taste of freedom together.